Hello everyone, my name is Michael Forde and welcome to SCOMathon 2022, Unscrambling 3 Common Connectivity Confusions in SCOM. The agenda today is 3 separate talks. They're all connected, 3 15-minute sessions, starts aimed at everyone, and then it moves up through sort of some more lighter development discussions for Defender connectivity and into some more medium development discussions for a separating network and endpoint outages. Questions and meet the speaker here. So general Slack chat, scomathon.slack.com, not just voice, but typing, and questions via Slack, absolutely welcomed. Please, even during this presentation, you've got any questions you want to throw at me, we'll have a look at them after the presentation, and there's the link there. And of course, the scomathon.com link, fantastic presentations there. All this will be up there eventually. Presentations from last year up there, absolutely worth having a look at. Proud sponsors of SCOMathon. Before I start, just want to say thanks to all the sponsors of SCOMathon. It's a phenomenally important part of the SCOM community, and the SCOMathon website's a gift that keeps giving with countless benefits that I've used a lot. So yes, thank you for inviting me, and I take it as a great honor to be able to speak today. So thank you. Who am I? I'm Michael Forde. There's my LinkedIn. Please contact me for any reason, especially around this presentation, but I'm happy to talk SCOM anytime. Don't be a stranger. Private consultant specializing in monitoring, 25 years. Joined the SCOM party back at SCOM 07, it's a long time ago now. Call myself a SCOMathon groupie. I'm usually not on this side of the camera. I'm hidden away in the shadows just watching, but this year I decided to take up the offer to talk at SCOMathon. Working for the Australian government at the moment, just completed a 12 to 19 side-by-side migration, sort of your standard enterprise level thing, few thousand servers, lots of remote sites, 70 distributed apps, 100 or so custom management packs running to the cloud, Azure, AWS, on-prem VMware, ESX, regional Hyper-V. Yeah, so you sort of standard enterprise level thing, which is perfect for SCOM. A little bit about myself. I'm experimenting with room scale virtual reality at the moment. I have 1 wife, 2 hairless cat sphinxes, and 3 i9s. And as I said, don't be a stranger, happy to talk. Okay, part 1, 7 agents of SCOM. I'm going to be moving pretty fast. I've got a lot to get through, so have your preferred hot drinks or sugary drinks handy. It's pretty information dense, so buckle up and here we go. All right, so straight away people are saying 7 agents SCOM, hang on, 7 agents, don't you just use the SCOM agent? Well, yes, there's a SCOM agent, but there's also the MMA agent. Isn't that the SCOM agent? Not always, I'll go into that. The AMA agent or the log analytics agent, the ARC agent, dependency agent, ADT agent, and others. There's a lot of agents and they all have stuff to do with SCOM. So we'll start with the Azure MMA agent, also called the MMA agent, which Azure MMA agents or log analytics agent, which is at the version 10.20. Pull from a log analytics pane in Azure, you can see here, this is where you can actually grab this 10.20 version. It's at the SCOM 2019 UR3 standard at the moment, so not entirely sure what's going on with the SCOM 22, if they're going to be in sync with that later. So yeah, we've got these 2 versions which people use mostly at the moment. So we've got SCOM 19 UR3, SCOM 22 RTM at the moment with no URs, so 10.19, 10.22. And then in the middle, we have this other thing, this Azure MMA agent 10.20. And a lot of people are going, what is this? What's going on here? So you may see accidentally installed by your cloud friends on VMs in the cloud, IaaS VMs, because sometimes you'll see documentation saying this is where you get the agent from and things like that. So yes. So obviously inside the agent, that's the SCOM-19 agent there. You can see it says log analytics OMS, SCOM-19 log analytics OMS. The OMS term is starting to be sort of depreciated. If we have a look at the SCOM-22 agent, you see no OMS terminology anymore, just log analytics. And then if you have a look, I just got a version properties up of the this Azure MMA agent 10.20, which looks a lot like with the OMS, looks like the 19 and is in sync with the UR3 currently. There's talk about merging them at the moment. So the MMA agent for Azure and the SCOM agent could be merged in the future, but currently they're not. Okay, the AMA agent stands for Azure Monitor Agent as opposed to Microsoft Monitoring Agent, MMA. They're very different beasts. AMA is a Azure Monitor Agent, purely cloud, not SCOM agent compatible and not on-prem. But because Microsoft discuss Azure Monitor being able to monitor on-prem, people think, oh, this is what you use, but it isn't. So we'll go into that later. So don't confuse AMA with MMA. Log Analytics Agent, current state, Log Analytics Agent, the term's used a lot, but it is just actually the MMA agent. Log Analytics Agent for Windows is often referred to as MMA, but in the Linux space, they refer to it as the OMS agent, same thing. Log Analytics uses OMS gateways to communicate to Log Analytics if you don't have a direct connection to the cloud. There's confusion about what gateways are. So there's an OMS gateway and also the SCOM gateway. SCOM gateways to get alerts and stuff through untrusted domains, DMZ, other sides of firewalls and things like that. Not the same gateway, so just be aware of that. Bit of terminology hell here. OMS log analytics Forde equals OMS gateway equals log analytics gateway, but it's not actually the SCOM gateway. Different things. Just a quick diagram on how you can use the log analytics gateway up here to talk straight to the log analytics workspace without SCOM. And then if you get SCOM in the picture, you can see here now called OMS gateway, same thing. And it's being managed by your management servers. You've got control via your console and things like that to send data, but it's still sending data log analytics workspace over the same port. Just a little bit here, just a quote from Microsoft so people sort of understand this. So in the MMA agent, obviously you got a log analytics tab and operations manager tab. The log analytics can be used for like high volume data, such as IIS logs, performance data, security events and stuff straight to the log analytics gateway, but you're still using SCOM to do your alerts and going to the SCOM environment. Log analytics uses getting data to log analytics, unsurprisingly, running the Azure Migrate appliance, which assists in working out on-prem resources which are feasible to migrate to Azure. It uses that. I've got a funny statement here, but also depreciated, which is interfacing with Windows Defender for endpoint in some cases, but that's being depreciated, and there's a new technology coming along to handle this, but we'll talk about that in part 2. Log analytics configuration via tasks, PowerShell, commandlets. You can use Kevin Holman's SCOM management pack to do it. Obviously, that management pack has a lot of other really cool features, so I suggest you try it out. Well, I'll also say that you can use ARM templates in the cloud. Obviously, ARM templates are a big thing at the moment, and you'll find there's a lot of documentation, especially around Azure, talking about log analytics connectivity using ARM. Log Analytics Agent overview, interesting little excerpt from Microsoft here. They're saying that Log Analytics is on a depreciation path and not supported after August 31st, 2024. So it's coming up in a couple of years. They also see here Log Analytics Agent is referred to as the Microsoft Monitoring Agent. So interesting. Are they saying the Microsoft Monitoring Agent is no longer supported after 2024? I doubt that'd be the case. Yeah, or maybe it's just around that that Azure version of it. So I think it's just some terminology funniness there. Dependency Agent. Yeah, consider it a plugin to Log Analytics Agent. Relies on Log Analytics. Does some dependency tracking of processes at the application level. It's used as a Azure compliance again, but also things like the service map, which is an Azure tech, gives you nice graphical images about how services interrelate to each other and the components talk to each other. What agent or diagnostics extension is something you can throw down onto your Azure instances. This is not SCOM related at all. The only reason I'm bringing it up is that it's used sometimes instead of Log Analytics, but it gives you some performance counter-like stuff, and you can look at the Azure Metric Explorer for it. It's got some limitations which you can look up yourself. Arc Agent, sometimes called the Azure Connected Machine Agent. Yeah, and this is how you can use Azure Monitor on-prem, and so you can drop some the Arc Agent on, and then you can do some on-prem work. As it says here, the Azure Monitor Agent does not replace the Connected Machine Agent. The Azure Monitor Agent will replace the Log Analytics Agent, as we discussed before. Diagnostic Extension Telegraph Agent. Just quickly, Telegraph, interesting thing. It's an open source data collector, has a lot of plugins for stuff. Interested in, if you're in the monitoring space, to be aware of it at least. Microsoft are sort of leading on the open source software there, but they're sort of trying to bring it back in-house now. Obviously, 15-minute presentation, we don't have time to get through all this, but I just wanted to see big red arrow here. You can see MMA, AMA here. So this is us as SCOM people, how it fits in with the whole Azure Arc Connected Machine Agent architecture here. So we're in this extension manager space, but you can still, yeah, we're talking here over 443 to Log Analytics on the cloud in Azure. ADT Agent, ACS Agent, audit collection services, been around for ages. We're in the Azure SIEM now. SIEM's sort of one of these new buzzwords at the moment, stands for Security Information and Event Management. So, you know, a lot of pressure to get security type event logs somewhere for analysis and for security reasons. That's exactly what ACS does. So yeah, as I say here, the cybersecurity lament the lack of security event log collation, and this fixes the issue. Yeah, some ways it's totally integrated to SCOM, some ways it's not. No SCOM gateway support. You have to sort of punch firewall holes straight through for individual servers, and creates custom certs if you're outside a trusted domain, and create what I call stub AD objects in the trusted domain with certificates on them, so they can talk. I do actually go to all that trouble, and it's worth it for me. The secret agent, agentless, current state of agentless monitoring. It's interesting. So in the past, agentless was all about, you know, being able to have a few endpoints which don't have the SCOM agent on it, but you're using your management servers to do the heavy lifting. Lots of talk about not doing it too often because you don't want your management servers under load. But these days, it's another thing that's making a comeback because of the cloud. Cloud, we have agents up there on IaaS type machines, but now there's a lot of high quality SQL instance type PAS stuff for the newer versions of SCOM, 365 monitoring, synthetic transactions and stuff. None of it's based off SCOM agents so much. And obviously network management is agentless based off SNMP and UIDs and things like that. But unless you attach an agent, which I'll get through in part 3 of this talk. AWS have an online SCOM NP, hasn't been touched for a while, but still works really well using in SCOM 19, haven't tested in 22. Have a play. So moving straight on to part 2, Microsoft Defender connectivity. Okay, Defender 101 for SCOM people. What is Defender? So I've got a little umbrella there. The reason is historically it meant Defender antivirus. Now it's more of an umbrella term. If we have a look at everything that sits under Defender umbrella, it is huge. So taking a deep breath, we've got Defender, Microsoft Defender Antivirus, Defender for Endpoint P1 and P2. We've got Defender Unified Agent, a new thing, new System Center Endpoint Protection, sort of sits under the SCEP, sits under Defender moniker. We got Defender for Office 365, Microsoft 365 Defender Services. Yes, they're two separate things. Microsoft Defender for Identity, Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps, Microsoft Defender Cloud Firewall. It just goes on and on. Yeah, not that one. So yeah, lots of things. And the reason why is that they are all almost all previous named technologies. And so they're all just coming under that umbrella now. So interesting things to see here is that Microsoft Defender Antivirus used to be called Windows Defender Antivirus. Obviously, now we have Defender for Linux, Android, iOS. So it's all under the Microsoft name now, which makes sense. Yes. Today's focus, we're just going to be focusing on these top 5 because they're more of the SCOM-y ones, things that SCOM people need to know about and interrelate with SCOM in some fashion. So this stuff's changing rapidly, by the way, even while I was starting to write up this this presentation for SCOM-a-thon, things actually moving daily on stuff. So forewarning about that. So yeah, this stuff is a moving target. Mostly, I just want to talk here about the management packs that are currently out for different parts of the antivirus components. So we have 2. We got SCEP and Defender. A lot of internet literature says that SCEP is Defender. It is not in a SCOM sense, so 2 distinct management packs. We've got the SCEP one, which is really only for Windows Server 2012 R2 at the moment, because Defender doesn't support that out of the box right now. And Defender Antivirus MP, which is a version agnostic one. That term version agnostic, you're going to hear a lot more of. SCOM 2022 and Aquila. So Microsoft Defender for Endpoint is not Microsoft Defender Antivirus. This confuses some people. They're 2 different things. So the endpoint is stuff that goes to cloud and does sort of analysis on looking for security risks. It doesn't have like antiviral signatures or virus cleaning and things like that. 2 different products. You can, they work in unison. Unsurprisingly, Microsoft would like you to use both. And they've got a great article here, 11 reasons to use Microsoft Defender together with Defender for Endpoint. But you don't have to. You could go, you know, if you've got investments in McAfee Antivirus or Symantec, squared up as an interesting Symantec endpoint protection dashboard, for example. So there's investments in that, and there is McAfee Antivirus community management pack. So yeah, a little bit of confusion there about terminology, especially about this Plan 1, Plan 2, which are more sort of marketing groupings than a technology. So if we have a look at the groupings here, we got Endpoint Plan 1, which has including the anti-malware, antivirus stuff, attack surface reduction, things like that, iOS, Android, Windows 10. And then you got Defender Endpoint Plan 2, which has everything in one plus other stuff like threat analytics. I noticed that Linux is only in Plan 2 down here, and other stuff. So let's keep it SCOM specific. Currently, Defender Endpoint uses the MMA agent on service below Windows Server 2019. This is also something that confuses people a bit. So there's sort of different ways of running Defender for Endpoint depending on your OS version. So SCOM people are sort of indirectly involved because it goes through the MMA agent because it needs the log analytics components. But this is all changing right now. So what we have right now is this public preview of a thing called the Unified Defender Agent. Should be coming soon. This thing is interesting because Microsoft are doing a very nice thing in supporting down-level OSs with this. So it supports everything from 2012 R2 up. and you won't need the MMA agent anymore to do Defender for Endpoint type stuff, which is nice because right now, it's a bit of a mix. One caveat here is once it is removed, make sure your antivirus guys don't get too eager and uninstall the MMA agent thinking, oh yeah, that was just something that was needed for antivirus, especially if you're running SCOM. Also saw an interesting thing. Once I was writing all this up, I noticed depreciated MMA due to the AMA agent and also depreciated MMA due to the unified agent. So I'm seeing a trend about depreciating MMA away from different technologies, just probably isolating technologies away from each other. Unified agent continued. So this is what they call the onboarding process on Azure. I'm not going to get into it, but I do see that there's lots of different ways of onboarding depending on versions, which is a mess. You can see here the older things, 28R2, 12, and 16, we're using the MMA agent. Now there's this public preview thing, which is this new unified agent for 12 and 16. You have to turn your preview stuff on Azure to see it. Uses internet proxies to communicate. Oh yeah, this is important because obviously you use MMA, you can use the OMS gateways to pipe your data through. They're getting rid of that. Unfortunately, if you've got investments in the OMS gateway to do this stuff, you won't be able to use it anymore. So you have to actually totally change how you communicate to Azure for this stuff. Don't have to use proxies, obviously, if you've got direct connection to the cloud. It's also what they call static proxying, where you don't have to use the internet proxies, use your own configuration just for Defender to get out to the cloud. But the one thing is, as you can see here, it does not support this gateway anymore. Important. Now I'm just going to go into stuff that's happened to me. Common Ask Malware AV questions, SCOM top four of things which aren't given to us out of the box. So none of these are answered easily out of the box. So I'm going to go through how I actually resolved each of these questions. So question one, how do I quickly view the current state of AV in our fleet? Do we have servers that are missing AV? How do we know we've had viruses, and what malware still needs actioning? So some of these sound like they're already out of the box, but I'll show you why they're actually not, and what I've done to resolve those. Okay, so can I quickly view the current state of AV in the server fleet? Yes, you can, especially with Defender. The PowerShell commandlets for Defender are really good. So this is my mindset anyway. If you're writing a management pack around this, this is how I think. So it might be useful for people to how you sort of build up to work something out. So get SCOM class as your friend. Have a look at the classes you've got. Obviously, have a look at the classes. There's one called protected endpoint. So if you go and have a look at that, then you realize protected endpoint is actually sort of overused. It's both in SCEP and Defender. And so if you want to just get one or the other, then you build up where management pack name is the Defender in case you just want the Defender stuff. And okay, so we got that. Now we actually want to look at what's in it. So then you pipe it to get SCOM class instance and select everything. And then you get a massive wall of text in PowerShell of everything that SCOM knows about your Defender instances, which is great. And there's a lot of interesting and useful information in there, but you want to actually be able to see it nicely. I'll just clean up here that, same command here, but Microsoft.feps.library if you want the SCEP stuff. Besides that, it's the same. Okay, so to create a view, use PowerShell widgets to simply iterate through it. This is my GitHub for the SCOM Defender in case you want to grab it, and I'll show you what you get out of it. So this is not a management pack. I'm being a little bit cruel here. I want you to actually create it yourself in a grid view. So you're learning how to do that. So creating a PowerShell grid view in 10 seconds, because that's all the time I've got. So yeah, if you right click in new view in SCOM console, get this, get your template, grid layout, and then give it a name. So I'm calling Defender addendum screenshot example of SCOMathon 22. Then choose how many cells you want for the grid. I'm just getting 1. And then you'll get a white screen with that grid, and you click to add widget, which brings up a view of different widgets. And then you want to use the PowerShell grid widget and give that grid widget a name. And you get a nice PowerShell script space, which you can just paste PowerShell code into to create views. So have a look at that GitHub, smack it in there. And what you get is this sort of thing. So here's a Defender view of everything. Running Defender, showing different issues, red, last full scan days, real-time protection, if and what versions you're running at in case the version out of date. So it just gives you that sort of one site thing. And then of course you can sort. So sort on all the bad things which haven't been scanned this week and things like that. I've split out, so that's a Defender one. Here's one that looks exactly the same, which is skep, which obviously just has a skep command in it. And you could merge them together. Of course, I don't, because we're sort of working through getting rid of 2012 R2, and I want to know what's still running skep in the organization. Okay, question 2: how do we have endpoints that are missing antivirus? More of an SCCM endpoint manager question, of course, but useful as an alert. Now, what's funny is that you think we already have this, but because if you're running both, if larger organizations are running 2012 R2 and you're running skep and Defender at the same time, you're on the Defender management pack. It'll show you everything that doesn't have any antivirus and also skep. And if you run skep, it'll show you everything that doesn't have antivirus and also Defender. So you need sort of a Venn diagram intersection of the both. So there's a bit of code to do that. So here's my code up on GitHub. Grab it if you want. How do we know if we've had viruses or malware? So this is interesting. Obviously, the great thing about SCOM being monitors, it finds a virus, throws it up, cleans it, monitor closes. You could have had 1,000 viruses overnight. You won't really know unless you're looking back through your old closed monitors. And that could be an important thing, especially if you're under attack. And so that you sort of need that human element sometimes just to see the visibility of what's going on with malware and viruses. So if we look here, this is funny. I just created a very simple view. It was just new alerts, anything with the word malware in it, because the word malware is in both skep and Defender, and resolution states of anything. So not just new, but new, acknowledge, closed, etc. And this has become very useful for our organization to track stuff, and we've actually tracked stuff down that would have been dangerous to the organization by using this and would have been hidden otherwise. Question 4, what malware still needs actioning? Again, Defender skep is heavily utilized in the SCCM endpoint manager stuff, but there's some great data in there we could get into SCOM, juicy data. But at a high level, that data is actually in the SCCM SQL database, which we don't have direct rights to. Now, the great thing is there is a way in WMI. So how we do that in WMI? Well, in SCCM land, you can create views, which can be a bunch of things like SQL queries against the database to create a view. So here's a bit of data I found online of a view to get some stuff to do with malware and viruses, and sort of exempting some stuff that this author didn't want to know about, because they probably knew that was in their organization but didn't want to be annoyed with it, and other stuff. You can read the article, but what you can do is grab something like that. I'm going to probably break some unspoken rule here and show an SCCM console instead of a SCOM console in a SCOM presentation. But anyway, bear with me. So we can see here reporting. We have some different reporting views here. The reporting view is made up of this select statement, a SQL select statement going to the SCCM database and connected to this name. PS lookup Windows Defender servers last threat 48 hours. So this is just the name we give it, right? And then back at the SCOM side, we can just use some PowerShell to query that name, PS lookup Windows Defender servers last 48 hours, as a WMI query. and we get the data back. And then we can create alerts or views or whatever from that. Very, very useful. So suddenly we get a lot of more visibility in SCOM, what's going on. So yeah, we've done everything. Can we quickly view the current state of AV? Yes. Can we, do we have services of missing AV? We know how to do that. How do we know which servers have had viruses? We do. And what malware still needs actioning via SCCM? Yes, we've done. So this is easy stuff. All right, moving on to part 3, separating network and endpoint outages. So sort of builds on concepts we discussed in the previous 2 parts, a little about agent use and pulling data in different ways. It pulls it all together. Have a big gulp of your coffee or sugary drinks because it's going to get slightly technical. Management pack authors in the audience, you can wake up now. This is for you. Okay, server outage, top 4 questions. Why am I seeing a server down? Is it a network issue? Whose responsibility is it? And why can't you tell me, damn it, you told me SCOM was amazing. And time is ticking. Like, this is something that happens all the time, and we don't have an easy answer. So, you know, why am I seeing a server down? Well, standard stuff in SCOM. In SCOM, you see a heartbeat fail alert. By itself, sure, may not be a network issue because you're getting pings back. If you're getting the heartbeat and failed to connect computer alerts, of course, it's possibly a network issue because you're not getting the ping. But the ping may not be a network problem. It could be the server is shut down, NIC fail, the OS is freeze, just can't ping, or. So there's a lot of stuff that could happen to cause this, right? And we just don't have enough information to know why. So just quickly how SCOM does stuff. Of course, you've got heartbeats. If it misses a certain amount of heartbeats from a managed system, which is customizable, it then does like a recovery task type thing, which is doing a ping back from the management server or gateway. And if that ping fails, then you get a fail to connect the computer alert. So you get a double alert. So yeah, right now, all chaos is breaking loose because you know, if we're not running the entire SCOM network monitoring solution at this point, this is happening a lot. You know, phone calls to your network operation and trace routes and firing up other network management tools and attempting to cross-correlate it with SCOM and where's that server and shouting and calls and what's the VLAN, what's the subnet, what's it talking to, what's the router name, you know, is there other servers down at the same site? To try and work out if it's network. And this is all happening while you have a significant outage and time's ticking. I think this is sort of unacceptable because, you know, this is one of the big things we should be able to do with monitoring is know what's going on here. So the out-of-box solution, of course, is to use network monitoring for SCOM. And it's agentless, as we discussed in part 1. Pros, it absolutely works. It works, it's fine. Cons, it's time consuming to set up, and you got to keep it managed. And I don't know about you, you work on it and you feel like you've got a Cisco certification by the end of it. There's a lot of terminology and stuff for IT guys. And you have to work through, you know, there's MIBs and UIDs and there's management packs like this thing, this System Set Operations Management Extendable Network Monitoring Management Pack Generator tool to generate management packs for custom stuff. And that's all fine. But like where I work at the moment, we've got, you know, shared 3-4G interdepartmental resources. We've got satellites, we've got WAN infrastructure that's configured in different ways. There's a lot of different devices, and trying to keep that all sort of in SCOM just to answer these questions, a bit tricky. Yes, you could do basic up-down, but it doesn't give you that relationship to your endpoints. So what do we need? How do we answer the original questions, right? How do we answer these things? Well, it comes down to how can we quickly configure, have SCOM assist us with answering the questions, right? So let's stand network topology on its head and say that SCOM is more of an endpoint monitoring system than a network monitoring system. Therefore, instead of using usual topology of where a network device has child nodes of endpoints, let's do the exact opposite. Let's have an endpoint which has a child node of the network device. I'll let that sink in. That's yeah, a little bit odd, but I'll tell you why. So getting very technical in SCOM jargon, why not add a close by network device as a class, extending, for example, the Windows computer class with a property of, for example, a pingable IP address relating to the close network device as a property. Let's work through this, right? So some diagrams in case you don't know what classes are. SCOM classes in 5 seconds. These are classes. You have an entity which has things like logical disks. Logical disks have properties such as, how much space the disk has, how much is used up, and different things. And so what I'm saying is you can actually have a close by network device as a class of an endpoint, and that opens up a whole heap of interesting things. So yeah, just a small digression here. Extended classes isn't hard. Kevin Holman has a great article that sort of got me into it back in 2009 about creating dynamic computer groups based off registry keys using class extensions. Really useful. It's actually really useful because you can have large organizations not need different SCOM management groups. You could just use this and have a single management group. Okay, back to what we need. So obviously you would need a data source to populate this thing. Way to form a relationship between the class instance and the network device. SCOM is very client-side focused, so discoveries are instigated at the client side, obviously, right? So you do a discovery of and the information you want is usually on the endpoint that you're discovering. Not in this case. Not in this case. This is different. So because the endpoint may not know. So there's a few ways around this. There's a great article by Stefan Roth here about how to populate attributes through PowerShell from a centralized point. And so you don't need to have your regional sites doing it. So you don't have a server in Arizona reading a CMDB in New York to populate SCOM, and then have a server in London reading the same CMDB in New York to populate SCOM, et cetera, et cetera. I do say here, it's obviously need a data source. This is really important. It's not obvious at all. You actually don't need a data source in some cases. You can work it out mathematically, and I do this. So, for example, you could throw away the last octet of the IP address of the server, replace it with the .1 if you've got a really clean environment. That's the caveat, a clean environment where the .1 is on the VLAN's always a close by network device, and ping that instead. And so you don't actually have to store it. So what does this give us? Okay, first two blue is Microsoft out of the box, and red's my sort of extension here where, endpoint stops heart beating, we get the diagnostic recovery, ping, fail to connect, and then we can fire up pinging a network device from a relevant management server. And if this fails, take appropriate action. Now, I'll put a little star here about management server. It could be a gateway. It gets out of scope for such a short presentation today, but obviously you couldn't ping from a management point through a firewall that doesn't allow ICMP or a untrusted Active Directory domain, that sort of thing. So there's some caveats around that. But anyway, take the appropriate action. So ping network device has failed. What do we do with it? Obviously, we want to have a view so people know what the hell's going on. We want to tell the network team, and we want to do something about the heartbeat, failed to connect stuff, suppress it, clean it up somehow, because it's not your problem anymore. It's a network issue, right? Okay, so take appropriate action number one. Let's start with have a nice view. So it depends on the consumer, right? If it's the IT team, both the network outage and server outage is only a warning. So two things are not as bad as one thing, because obviously network outage is not something they're going to work with. So you could just put a warning against it instead of critical. If it's a network team, both network and server outages, has to be both because it's chained through each other, how the logic works. But obviously critical, if it's only a server outage, totally irrelevant to a network team. They don't care if your server's down. So this is what I use anyway. This is a nice view of, you can see here, I call it Khan. keeping host actively networked. Also funny to hear people scream out Khan when there's an issue for the Trekkies in the audience. So you can see here, if the router is contactable, the server is not contactable, much worse, because it's it's probably more of a server issue. If the router is not contactable and the server is not contactable, it's only a warning because it's a network issue. Oh yeah, and here's a HTML5 using SCOM Web, doing the same sort of data. Taking appropriate action number 2, do something with a heartbeat, fail connect alerts, right? So option 1, you could roll your own. You can change the logic in the heartbeat, fail to connect, roll your own for extra functionality, not show them at all if you want. You can have a chatty option where you just add an extra alert. So you have your heartbeat and then you fail to connect and then fail to connect to the computer's router gateway. Exactly. So you get that a triple instead of a double. Or you could use subscriptions to modify the alert's resolution status. And I'm going to go into that a little bit, the subscription method. So subscriptions are really powerful. You don't just have to use them to send emails and stuff. You can use them to do logic, and especially in this case where the agent's down, so we can't help you. You can't get to the agent. There's no communication to your agent, but subscriptions are run from the management servers, so you can do some tricky stuff here. The one, I do want to put a caveat here, please be careful. When you do multiple subscriptions, especially command channel subscriptions of PowerShell at once, you can take a good management server to its knees. But you can only do a couple of them once out of the box. So you can do some modifications of registry keys to get them up to 100. But that's 100 PowerShell instances at once. So you can work out how much processing and memory that could take. There's a great SCOM-a-thon presentation last year by John Liss, who's created a tool to get around this. So yeah, have a look at SCOM-a-thon 21 from last year if you're interested. A little bit PowerShell about how you actually change these concurrent async process limits here to 20 in this case. Yeah, so okay, let's go through using subscriptions to modify the alert's resolution status. You detect the heartbeat. In the command channel PowerShell code, you can then pull the IP address of the network device, ping from a valid source. If it doesn't respond, change the resolution status number from 0 to a predefined value, and auto write a comment that you've done it, not a human. Nice thing is, if you do all this, once the site's back up and the network's running again, the server's up, it'll auto close still. So these are the alert resolution states that you can get from the administration pane in SCOM. I'm using it heavily. You can see how many I'm using. I'm using them a lot. Very powerful, very powerful. Pseudocode for SCOM 22 example. So this is something you can put in a command channel. It's only pseudocode here. So resolution state, I'm just making one up, 1, 2, 3. If the SCOM alert matches whatever you're looking for. So in this case, that we have heartbeat failures or cannot connect to a computer, and it's still in the new queue, then pump through all the ones you got and change the resolution state once you've done a ping to the router stuff, which I don't have in here. So yeah, this is how you could do it. This is a useful little bit of code. What about without subscriptions command channels? I'm sure no one's shocked when I say Kevin Holman has a great article about this. So yes, it's possible to monitor an agent but run a response on a management server. Taking appropriate action, telling the network team. Of course, once all this has happened, you can tell the network team via another email subscription based off this, say this 123 number, if you want. Command channel for prettiness, if you don't want to use the built-in email stuff. And this is what you get at the end of the day, the entire logic. So server outage generates a heartbeat, generates a fail to connect, triggers a subscription. Subscription does some logic to see pulling from that extended classes, changes the resolution state number, so it's pulled out of the queue, and your outages are now viewable in another view, based off that number. So yeah, at the end of the day, you've actually resolved all of these things. And when a manager comes and asks you all these questions, you can now say things like the service router isn't responding, the network team has already been notified automatically, relevant alerts have been acknowledged to the server team, so they know it's not their issue. and you can watch the state in a view. And so instead of saying, you told me SCOM is amazing, SCOM really is amazing. And that is it. So thank you very much, everyone, for this talk. And yeah, and I'll see you in the booth shortly. And thank you for your time.